Are you ready for the ultimate bikepacking weekend adventure? Join us for an unforgettable self-supported bikepacking trip through Southwest Virginia. The Grayson Gravel Pie Bikepacking Adventure travels along the Virginia Creeper Trail, the beautiful gravel roads of Grayson County, Virginia, and the New River Trail. All lodging and camping arrangements are included, along with daily routes and guides riding along with you. This self-supported adventure offers resupply opportunities every 20 miles for your food and water needs. Find out more at graveltraveldirt.com.
You're listening to Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian.
I'm Joey.
And I'm Matt.
This, folks, is episode 186 of Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt. If you're new here, this is a podcast where we talk about gravel bikes, adventure biking, bike packing, bike camping. Tonight, we're going to talk about playing bikes down in North Carolina, Joey, with Matt.
Yes.
With our special guest, Matt Hawkins. Now, Jess is not with us tonight. Jess is getting back into teacher mode, so she's taken a few weeks to kind of like ease herself back into the 8th grade world.
Yeah.
Cannot be an easy thing to do. I cannot imagine the culture shock. But joining us tonight, Matt Hawkins of Ridge Supply, and is also the event director and mastermind. Is it fair to say the mastermind behind the Croatan Buck 50? Is that a moniker that we can hang on you, Matt? Does that work?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Before we get to any and all of that, we just got to say kind things about Cutaway USA. And I know, Matt, you have kind things to say about Cutaway USA, but they offer premium cycling apparel born where, Joey?
In the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Cutaway is an industry leader using innovative fabrics combined with clean, bold designs. Make sure to visit their website at cutawayusa.com to see all the goodies. And when you reach the checkout, use the code GTD20 to take 20% off your entire order. Now, Cutaway put together your floral kit, right, Matt?
Yes.
And I've got it in the show notes later to talk about, but I love that kit.
I'm glad.
It's absolutely probably one of the most comfortable kits that I think I've worn. Hands down.
Yeah, good.
Hands down. Love the cargo bibs. Love the design. It's fun. It's really cool.
What about my Cutaway kit? I'm just kidding.
Your Cutaway kit?
Actually, I will say I never asked Philip, but even the zippers on those all-around jerseys are like a new improvement that I love.
Yeah, are the zippers new?
They are.
I feel like they are because they are just
high quality.
He has upped the game. Not that there was any quality issues to begin with, but I mean, you always want, and Matt, you know this, you always want to be upping your game, and I think Philip's done that one more time.
Yep.
Really, really impressed.
Matt's actually got us started with Philip. I think everyone knows that.
Yeah, we've made for a brand myself that only does really pre-order sales of kit. Everything I've ever made has been with Cutaway, but we've probably made, maybe 100 different iterations in the 7 years. I mean, it's possible, like between colorways and things like that. And we don't improve or change something every time, but the changes have just been almost constant. And this all around jersey that you're talking about, essentially that's born from the long sleeve jersey that he did. And it's a new fabric. And the long sleeve jersey just felt so good. The same kind of feeling you're talking about. And I was like, let's do this in a short sleeve, So we just basically cut the sleeves off, used the same fabric as the long sleeve. And it was kind of a game changer. If you're really looking for something that is just, you're not worried about it being the lightest or the most aero, but it's just a comfortable jersey. Like it stretches and it's durable. And that's what a lot of people wear. They wear kind of an everyday jersey all the time. Yeah. And that's what we targeted at. And I think it's been a good product for sure.
Well, it's definitely hit the ball out of the park.
I never really because we used the regular, I guess the pre version of that or whatever it was for our shop. And
in the last
Podcast
GTD.
kit, but I didn't really think about anything improving until I got the new floral kit in.
Yeah, and for me, it was like, well, first thing I noticed was the zipper, but then it was also the fit of it, like you're just talking about, Matt. Every jersey has a little bite somewhere. It's like it always feels like it's like either in the armpits or in the shoulders or in the cuffs or the sleeves or something. There always feels like there's some little compromise or some little place where it kind of bites. And this is, I kid you not, man, it's the first jersey I've put on where it's just like, wow. And then the bibs, I mean, they kind of stand out themselves too. But and having that as a full kit, Joey, I've come full circle. I used to be a jersey guy. And like I didn't do the whole kit thing, but lately all I've been doing is buying kits, like full kits, and I love it. I'm a kit man now.
It's not for everybody, and I totally get it. And we saw a lot of separates. People will just buy the bibs or they'll buy the jersey. But if you can buy them together and you can pull it off, it's also just a vibe every time you ride. And it isn't for everybody, but I think if you're buying Ridge Supply stuff, you're probably looking to stand out anyway. That's kind of the whole point. And so I just took I had this idea in my head of not doing like a Hawaiian jersey, but doing something that was like had the Ridge Supply skyline vibe in the background and then this floral fern kind of thing on the front. And I had an idea. I kind of put two pieces of art together and then gave it to Philip, and he did his magic like he does. And I think it's turned out really good. The bibs are crazy good because they have every panel's different. And I just think it's something you can wear those with any other jersey too, and they would stand out. So
they work.
They're fun. Yeah. And you guys are the only ones that have them, Joey. So if anybody's interested in them, they got to get them from you.
I've had nice walk-ins. Brian prematurely announced I would be ready to ship some, so I have to work on that tomorrow. I've
been selling them like crazy. I'm like, I want to sell Joey. I wanted to sell them out before you had the opportunity to actually push them out there anywhere.
Well, I'm gonna hang on to a jersey and just keep it on the wall.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. And my thing was I had to figure out the sock game to go along with it. And I know you got the socks.
You didn't buy new socks today.
I didn't buy new socks because the size that Matt kind of matches that kit.
The Skyline,
the
original?
It's you didn't have them in my size.
Sorry.
So, but what I did was the socks that came with the Croatan entry from last year for 22.
Right.
They have that orange bottom, but they kind of got that same blue top. And so I've been wearing those, and I think the blues, the orange just has that little bit of foot contrast down at the bottom. I think they actually really work well too.
Yeah.
Well, and you bring up a very interesting point, and I'm so glad you did, because it's a mistake to try to match your socks exactly to what the rest of your colors, because then your socks don't do the thing that the Ridge Supply socks are supposed to do, which is have a pop of color that stands out from the rest of what you're wearing, so it's more visible. So you do the right thing, maybe even by mistake. That bright orange that you're talking about at the base of those socks is going to stand out visually when you're riding way better than if you had all blues matching your kit.
Because it all kinds of blends together. Bob Ross called them happy accidents, right? Happy accidents.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's just a happy little accident. And every time I look down when I'm on my bike and I'm wearing that floral kit and I look down and I see the blue and then I see the orange, it like makes me smile. It really is.
It was a jury day yesterday. We wanted to pop. I wanted to be seen. I didn't want to get.
Yeah, you were in your yellow and I was in I wore my floral kit yesterday, right? Yeah. That was yesterday. I had it for later on in the show notes to talk about that kit, but I think it was the nice segue. And as Matt mentioned, if you're looking for the floral kit, the only place you can get it is from Joey. At this point in the game, you could have got it way back if you'd have been a Ridge Supply follower, like everybody should be, but maybe they aren't. I don't know why. It was crazy. When I was at Gravel Worlds, Matt, I wore the orange and blue side. There's a couple different variants of that. And I wore them all weekend. I wore those socks.
Same pair of socks?
Same pair of socks. Yeah, I did.
That's nasty.
I did. There was two.
They hold up, Joey. They hold up.
I know they hold up, but this guy's feet are.
Oh, come on, dude.
So we need to make him a wool version so he can The antimicrobial.
It was everybody was pointing at my feet. I'm walking around the expo and they'd go Ridge Supply and I'd be like, right on. It was fun. It was funny how even out in Nebraska, I mean, the Ridge Supply brand strong
everywhere,
well noticed everywhere you could see, everywhere it was out there. So it was super cool.
Cool.
Before we get to Croatan, Joey, you want to jump in to do Strava Club? Let's do that real quick.
All right. I didn't make Strava Club this week. I did.
I did
All right,
it in the show notes. Have you got them open?
Yeah, we got Grant Clarkson from Mount Pleasant, Michigan. How does someone from Michigan?
Another Michigander.
All right, 132.9 miles. Chet Johnson from Raleigh, North Carolina, with 149.9.
Good job, Chet.
And Casey Fenton from the back of a U-Haul truck, running from the smoke out west, with 188.1.
I love it when those things come up kind of random because, I don't know, Casey's been a long-time listener. We met Casey at, I think, the first Unpaved we did way back. And he's out crossing the country right now. And as Joey mentioned,
he got doing a bike trip, but then he had to rent a U-Haul. Only car
because he got caught in smoke and couldn't ride his bike. They wouldn't, so he had to bypass the smoke. But anyway, Casey, good job.
You needed 128 miles to break into the top 100, and we're at 866.
That's cranking up every week now. If you noticed that or not?
I know I'm chasing it, but I'm chasing asthma too. Yeah. So
we're getting like 8 to 10 new Strava Club members every week. So I'm excited about that. Doesn't do anything except for gets us to talk about it. I don't know.
That's it.
Strava.com/clubs.
Oh, sorry.
Travel dirt. Now, Matt, the reason I think that you're joining us here tonight is that Croatan Buck 50 registration opens up to the unwashed masses on Thursday, which is the same day this episode drops. That's correct, right?
That is correct. Thursday at noon Eastern time.
Oh, perfect timing. Excellent. I didn't think about that.
Yep. You're going to actually be able to listen to this on your commute Thursday morning when it drops. And then immediately when you get to work, you can set your calendar, set an alarm, set a something, and register for Croatan Buck 50 when it opens at noon. So what's new for 23?
Besides the beautiful new logo colors.
Oh, I always love that change.
A quick side story before I answer that question. Yeah. What is also kind of rad about that day and time is that it will have been 8 years ago when I got run over by a pickup truck on September 15th at noon. And that's the impetus that started this brand and this sort of movement behind functional visibility. So
you've shared that story in the past, Matt. Would you mind just recapping that for listeners that maybe hadn't heard that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so and I'll be quick if you've heard it before, but basically I was on a lunch ride, and it was Monday, September 15th, 2014, and it wasn't uncommon for me to ride my bike during lunch, but what was uncommon was that I had come back to my house because I'd kind of taken the afternoon off because I had to take my son, who was 4 at the time, to the dentist at 2:00. So I was in a little bit of a hurry to get this ride in. And I was riding on a known road, a road I ride. It's a long straight stretch, probably a 2-mile straight stretch. Good visibility the middle of the day, noon on a Monday. And I was riding on not the shoulder, but on the white line or to the right of the white line on this road. It's a 2-lane road, and I got hit by a pickup truck doing probably 60, and I didn't hear it, see it, nothing. I just was airborne, and I landed, clipped into the bike, landed on my left side, and kind of came to a rest, fortunately off the road, kind of in the grass right beside the road, and I was in shock, a little disoriented. I was facing the wrong way. So it's like looking back towards traffic. And the truck sort of came to a stop past me and skidded to a stop. And I kind of looked back at the truck to see it, and it sped off and like peeled a wheel, like leaving the scene, and fled the scene. And I was sort of, I was very fortunate. I mean, I was conscious. My phone was still in my pocket. I couldn't really move, but I was able to get my phone. I was able to call 911, and I was in total shock and like in big time pain. But I was there on the side of the road for a little while, and eventually, like, some people passed me, didn't stop, and you just wonder, like, what were they thinking? and then finally, after a while, it probably wasn't that long, but I definitely saw cars pass me and see, like, I'm 6'2", like, laying on the side of the road in a bloody mess, and like they didn't even slow down. And then somebody finally stopped traffic, and long story short was I went to the hospital and ended up having a broken pelvis in like 4 places, and my arm was pretty busted up on the left side. And because it was a hit and run, I was just immediately inundated with people. All if you're listening to this story right now, it's natural, but this is your response is like, what did they catch this guy? Did they always assume it's a man, and always assume that like this person's basically like going to be caught and punished for doing something. And I was inundated with these. That's all anybody cared about. And I was really struck with the fact that I was so lucky to be alive and to be there. And, an inch one way or the other, it could have been different.
Sure.
Or the injuries could have been really bad, or I could have hit my head, or he could have actually run me over, all these things. So there was so much blessing involved, and I knew that. And I also realized right away that like I wasn't going to not stop. I wasn't going to stop riding. And everyone would ask me like, are you going to still ride? Oh, it's really dangerous. Like if you ride on the road, like I have been doing for, literally 40 years, like it is dangerous, but it's dangerous. It's no more dangerous than anything else that you do on the road. It's definitely not more dangerous than driving, but it's just something that when it happens, if you were to fear it moving forward, it's not a sport you should pursue. And I just knew that it was something I wanted to keep doing, and I love it. And I knew that I had to do it safer. And so the first thing I did in the hospital was like, I had to forgive this person who I was never going to find, that, made a mistake and fled the scene. And you flee the scene for who knows what reason is. That's probably not the person you want to be your first responder. And,
Right.
and reality is, they've got other things going on in their world at that moment that they had to leave. So I let that go. And I knew that in order to become a safer rider, that day I was wearing all black. I was wearing a black helmet, black shoes, black bike, black, because that's what's cool. Cool. Black clothes are cool. They're easy to find. Everybody sells them. And I was put together. I looked great, but I thought maybe that's why I wasn't seen. Maybe I wasn't as visible as I could be. So I started to do some research very quickly, like in the hospital and even when I got home and was recovering. And I found that, and I got to give a shout out to POC Sports. Back then, they were just coming to America. Like they just come over and got on to the Argyle team at the time. I don't even know what they were called back then. Maybe it was Slipstream or what. But that the World Tour team, they were using it. And POC had done some research that had helped identify what is more visible for a cyclist. And what I found was that blocked color was more visible than solid color. That was the number one principle. So if you had 3 colors together, they were more visible than just a solid orange, but if you have dark blue and white and orange, it's more visible. That's the number one premise. The second premise was that biomotion mechanics are the recognition of another human's movement. And if you are driving and you see another human doing a movement that your brain recognizes as a human movement, then you will treat them as a human.
Which would be, in this instance, like legs moving.
Yeah. And so I put those two things together and I said, okay, if the one thing that's always moving on your body is your feet, and they're also the thing that's the most visible from behind when you're riding. A lot of people worry about forward visibility, like in a city or something. You'd want a light, but where I'm at, like, I'm not worried about anything in front of me. I can see all that and I can control a lot of it. What I can't control is what's coming behind me. And that's the part I'm the most vulnerable. So I basically, the long story short of Ridge Supply and how it started is after I recovered, everything that I got a small insurance check for all of these things that had been cut off of me. My helmet, my clothes, my socks, my shoes, my gloves, all these things. The retail, reimbursement of all that stuff, and it ended up being $827. And I took that exact money and I made the first batch of socks from Defeat. I took the blocked colors and made a design that looked like the Blue Ridge Mountains, where I'm from in Virginia. And I thought to myself, like, I'm going to pay this forward, this $827. I'm going to put it into these socks and I'm going to try to find a way to sell them. I didn't know what I was doing. And I basically, within 2 weeks, I had gotten rid of 144 pair. And between friends, between a couple shops that were buddies that took some, I set up a website, I started to sell them, and I took that profit from those first 144 and I reinvested it all in new socks. And I did two different colors the next time. And I did the sunset colorway and I did the dawn colorway. And I did that over and over and over again. And I started Ridge Supply with that first $827 investment back in July of 2015, and I've never put another dime into the business in 7 years.
Wow.
And it all started from this incident where, and I feel like I've heard from a ridiculous amount of people that have been in accidents since then, because a lot of people know that story and they relate. The one thing that's different with everybody since then and now is I really feel like Ridge Supply makes something that makes the world, the cycling world, a little safer. And I mean, I can't prove that. I'm not going to tout that, but I believe it. I know that what we've done and the thousands and thousands and thousands of socks that are out there are making people a little bit safer, or at least they feel safer. You can't keep somebody from running you over, but if you're doing the best you can do while you're out there riding, then that's all you can do. And then you just have to enjoy it. Right. I tell my wife, if I go riding my bike, then that's pretty cool. Because you can't get out of this life alive. And it's a lot of times it's really messy the way you exit, and if I happen to go while I'm riding my bike, then I'm all set. I don't want to put myself in a bad situation, but, I know that has nothing to do with what's new in 2023 for the Buck 50, which is the original question.
No,
but the date is kind of cool because
we come back
is the
to all
date
that.
and the time.
you know that our format is pretty free form. That is powerful. That's lemonade out of lemons, and the healthy life attitude that I think we could all stand to adopt a little more of, where instead of focusing on that the negative energy, find the positive place and thrive in it, as opposed to the other way around. Now, a lot has changed since 2014. What other kind of things, situational awareness, technology, and things have you adopted in your riding, if any?
I mean, for a while, I was all about lights. I mean, I would run. I experimented a lot. I would run Thunderbolt headlights, which are white. I still don't understand why a headlight is white and a tail light is red for a bike.
Because that's what cars do.
Yeah, that's what cars do, and ultimately, I want to be seen when I'm on the bike, and nobody is expecting to see a bike. When they see a really small blinking red light, they don't even really know what that is. And so what I did is I would buy 2 Thunderbolts that are white. They're brighter. They even have got more lumens than the rear light, and I would set those up on my seat stays. And then I would do a red one as well, and I would turn them all to flashing. I did that for a while, where it was like, if you can't see that, there's 2 white lights and a red light, and they're all blinking like crazy. And I experimented in some stuff where biomotion is real, and anything you can do to help accentuate your movement or your visibility is key. When I design stuff with Cutaway, I've really focused heavily on the pockets. The pockets are normally an afterthought, and people a lot of times will put the same design on the pocket as the rest of the jersey, but it's actually the one thing when you're hunched over your bike that you can really see from behind.
That's right.
So I try to put really bright colors and reflectives on the pockets. I do, if I'm going to have color on a sleeve, I will try to make sure that color is on the left sleeve. I do sell things overseas, but most of my kit is sold in the US, where being on the left side is more important than the right as far as visibility is concerned. I still ride POC helmets because they have the greatest surface area in the back. And so I try to have a visible, bright color helmet on. I don't go overboard with it. I mean, I'm at peace with the fact that I'm visible and I'm riding. I try to ride with people when I can. I try to stay off busy roads if I can avoid it. Like where I live, we have a really busy road where I live on, and I could hop out on the road and ride the road. I stay on the sidewalk for a mile just to get off that road. And I just do that because it's just something I don't have to worry about.
That's riding smart. That's riding smart.
Yeah.
That road's crazy too.
Yeah. We know the road you're talking about. And we tell people when I'm leading tours all the time, it's like, okay, you got some choices to make here. This is a really busy section of road, but it's going to connect this to that. So we need to use it. There's a sidewalk. There's a this. Maybe you want to ride your bike over in the grass along the edge of the road. Just, you got to be smart. And that's just the thing to do. And adding colorful fun. I mean, you just this intersection of we were just talking about how that floral kit is so much fun, but color is fun. And this intersection of safety and fun, that's just a really great place to live and thrive and sit inside of. I think it's super cool.
Yeah.
I think I've worn,
and it's been. No, go ahead, Joey.
I think I was always an all black person until I ran into you at Asheville Nationals. You were like full blown by then already. It seemed like in 16. That was like January of 16.
5 months in.
In my book, you were like full on. I guess I don't know. I still have that same pair. I was gonna say real quick. I had a customer come in my store today. Had a video of me coming down Route 4. Didn't know it was me. He's like, I saw this guy riding with his light, and he was all highlight yellow. I'm like, oh, that was I was like,
highlighter yellow.
Yeah, I sold him a shit ton of lights, but anyway.
Yeah, I do think there's been so many advancements.
Not buy socks
with he's wrong. Things like the Angie in the helmet. That
the only thing I'll argue against Angie as a specialized dealer, I thought was I don't think they were selling fear, but or whatever. But when my employee got a concussion, we were riding in Richmond a month ago. That would have been nice to have.
the data.
We didn't know. He didn't know anything. He didn't know he hit his head.
I will say though too, like that technology is good. I was like on one of the first folks using that ice dot, which was where that came from. And it doesn't work very well off-road or gravel because you can jolt it to set the sensor off just by riding. And that's what happened to me the very first ride back after I recovered. I did a night ride with my buddy Lee. And of course, in true fashion, we tried to go out and set a KOM in the dark on my first ride back from recovery. And he drove me right into like a set of potholes at speed, and that thing went off, and my medical or my emergency contacts were being alerted. My wife, my mother-in-law, they were freaking out. My first ride back, we stopped to like turn around and my phone's blowing up, and I answered, and they were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, but Lee was going too fast," And they were like, this alert thing's going crazy. And so like, I just never used it. I used it on the road for a while, but I didn't use it off road but I just want to say, I think a lot of people use, there's a lot of false information about visibility out there. And what's sad, and I really believe this, like, I don't know of another company that does what I do, which is basically like almost everything I make is designed around visibility first. Yes, I've made some things that admittedly are not, but that's out of 70 pairs of socks, there's 2 or 3 of them that are just, they're just boring and they're dark.
I got like one pair of all black light stripes.
Yeah, and I mean,
that's it. Like, I've never seen
I do have
anything.
people ask me all the time, and I'm always like, look, they don't sell. Part of the reason they don't sell is like, I sell visibility. I don't tout it, but that's what I sell. And so if you keep that mantra yourself when you're thinking about design or when you're thinking about product, it keeps you in your lane. And that's the other part. The big thing, you mentioned this, you said, what's different? What's different about the sock space is when I started in 2015, I was the new guy, and I looked up to, and there was like six or seven companies that are already pretty well established at the time that were doing basically what I do now. None of those companies are in business anymore. And that's crazy. I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't know that was going to happen. But the landscape has changed. And part of the reason it's changed is that if you design a sock, every sock you design is like different and new and whatever. There really isn't a continuity or like a brand story or identity to tell in there. And of course, I didn't know that at the time. But when I came out with my Skyline sock, my first thought was like, what am I going to do next? But I didn't have a big plan. I didn't really know. And I stumbled into this colorway thing. And I may have told that story before, but basically I had a team down in Austin that asked me to put a neon orange cuff on the top of my Skyline. And they said they would buy like 30 pair. And I had to buy 72 back then to get them made. And I said, well, shoot, I'll do it. Why not? Yeah. I'll figure out how to sell the 42. Now, granted, nowadays that wouldn't last me a day. But back then it was like a risk. I was like, really like, I'm going to have to sell 42 of these socks, and so I did it. And then I realized that that's what people wanted to do. They wanted to match their sock to something that they already had. But that seems like a good idea now, or like, of course. Back then it was like a novel idea that no one had thought of, in a way, right? Mm-hmm. People were just making socks that stood out on their own, and they were their own statement piece. What I was able to do through the colorways was like, I had this one thing that became my iconic thing. And I had 5 colors already built into it, and the options are unlimited. I could never make, I could never reach the end of that combination. And that was just with one style. And if you know some of the history of what I've done, it's been the same design. The Skyline design is what is 5 colors. The double gap is all of those other lines gone except for the top cuff. That's a double gap. The Kyle is just the lines and not the actual blocks of color. And so I did all that stuff, and it was just like it's the same thing. It's just regurgitating in a different palette. But what I realized was what people really wanted was they wanted the style in the colorway that whatever their fancy was at the time. And I've made a ridiculous amount of socks that didn't work, that I thought were great, or I took a risk on a colorway and they just were duds. And I've got these Tupperware upon Tupperware of socks that we sold through and have been discontinued. And what's cool is, there's still 60, 70 pair that are available now. And some of them, there's about 8 or 9 of them that have been there since the beginning. Those are like classic styles. But the fact that there's what's changed in the industry and what's changed in 2014, I think, is that people have adopted color in a way where it's what I think I've brought to the table. It's like it's functional visibility. It isn't just visibility to be visible. Like Joey's jersey, for example, is visible to be visible.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's bright. It's super yellow, and you do see it from a long way away. It's just that the design of it is not necessarily adding to that. It's just as bright as it can be. You know how when you see like and I'm not knocking your jersey, Joey. No. I'm just saying, I'm saying that there's elements of it you could add to the functionality of it that would maybe make it even more visible. And that's the trick. You can't always sell that, but you can design it with intention, and that's kind of what I've tried to do since back then.
There's also a unique piece of it in that you can spend a lot of money on visibility and situational awareness, or you can spend a little bit of money on some socks that you already need to buy anyway. So it's like you're creating an affordable mechanism, to increase visibility in something that you've got to have anyway. You got to wear socks. I mean, unless you're a triathlete. But who wants to do that?
Yeah, but if you're a triathlete, get safety skin and rub it on your leg, and then you'll have reflective, or whatever you need. So
you're going to say something.
I'll say the last thing I'll add, I say that's changed since I met you in 16 without facial hair and I look like a kid, is you sell socks, but you sell like a community vibe with it. There's a reason Brian had everyone, obviously you're wearing Rich Supply socks and you're like, oh, Rich Supply, but like that's what you're selling.
Community. It's community.
Like it's its own thing in my store.
Group experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Group common experience.
I mean, it's fascinating to me because of course, if you talk to me then at that Asheville Nationals, I'd been doing it for 6 months. I still had my full-time job. I hadn't been basically like forcibly let go from the corporate world because they found out about this. But that's another story, but for another podcast. But I basically, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just winging it. And I was also, I really sat back and I said, like, right away, I didn't follow anybody else that was in the game. I did not want to be reactionary to anyone else. Those other 6, 7, 8 companies that were just making the same kind of thing. And they also were doing it with the feet. They were just like in-house private label brands and they were doing cool stuff. But I didn't want to be like, well, they did this. Well, I like that color. I didn't want to be influenced at all. So I really kind of stayed in my zone and just tried to work it. And one thing that I realized pretty early on was that the sock itself, and this is the part about the community that I just can't explain. The sock, unlike any other product that I've literally ever seen, it sells itself out in the world. And I don't know how or why a person like Joey puts on the sock and then wants to tell somebody else about it, or somebody wants to ask him, hey, where did you get those socks? Those are cool. But it happens to me too. I go to the grocery store, people are like, I love your socks. Like, first of all, I'm like, I would never do that. I would never say that to someone else. Right. And here I am. I'm like, that's cool. And that's how it's happening. That's why people in Nebraska know about Ridge Supply. I don't advertise. I'm not over there like, in their local shops. They found out through some connection, through some whatever. And that community has been something that I don't take credit for it, but I embrace it because that is whatever this magical thing is. I'm just like the shepherd right now. Like, I don't really know how it works or what it does. But I'm very thankful for it because you couldn't put it all together in some business plan in 2015. You could have never imagined where it's gone, and it hasn't gone I'm not some huge company, but the grassroots are so strong with this that it's impossible to match. I couldn't do it again, and it's something about the design, it's something about functional visibility, and it's something about just not using pros and people who are bike famous as your ambassadors. All that kind of stuff, I think, is a formula for what Ridge Supply is to people, So
yeah, I saw it in Nebraska, but also on like when I'm leading bike tours and I wear the socks, and you just be sitting around a campfire and somebody will finally go like, wow, those are bright socks. Or they'll say something like, yeah, those are really cool socks. And, I wear Crocs everywhere I go, and I kick my Croc off and it says Ridge Supply right across the bottom of it. And I'll show it to them, and I'll see them actually pull their phone out and clickety clack away and grab the name. Yeah. It's cool. There's something there. And you're right. It's this ethereal thing that you can't really put a finger on. But it's just, I think it's this intersection of fun and safety that I just think it's the timing is just perfect for it. So where did the Buck 50 come into play in the Ridge Supply story?
Well, 2016, I did this thing called Croatan Classics, and I basically created this little, not a race series, but like a ride series out here in the Croatan and it was kind of cool. It was like just locals, and we met on Saturday, once a month throughout the kind of winter season. And I did this thing where I made dog tags for each ride, and basically if you came out and did the ride, you get these dog tags. And I just made a route, and back then, I was one of the few people that really rode in the Croatan. People didn't ride out there. They didn't really know where the roads went. It's not something you really access by car very much. And it's kind of roads you just ride by. You just drive by or you ride around. And so we had all these routes, and it went pretty well. And initially, in 2017, I didn't have my corporate job anymore, and I wasn't being fully supported by Ridge Supply at that time. And I was working with Bike Flights, and I worked for Bike Flights for a few years from home. And I was the claims manager, at Bike Flights for 3 years. And so one of my coworkers there was Gordon Wadsworth, and we sort of were talking about, he had ridden down here on a training ride a couple times with buddy Josh Brown, and I was like, I want to do a race in the Croatan, and he kind of got excited about it, and we talked about it, and I basically just went out and scouted a course. In 2017, I would ride 2 or 3 days a week. I would just go out and just try to put together a course. And I finally got something I thought would work, and I rode it enough where I was like, well, I don't hate it. If you rode something once and you were kind of like, that's boring, I don't like it, or it was miserable, you don't want to send a bunch of people out there to do it on a race. So I thought I had a good course together, and we kind of promoted it and kind of got it going, but it's like a race nobody ever done before. And we knew we was able to get the racetrack to start and finish it. And What's hilarious is the first Buck 50 was actually pretty successful. I think we had 250 people in 2018, and you know, I was ecstatic with that. I mean, I thought 250 people, this is awesome, and then I did not know how to run a race. I'd never done one before. I literally I got those Honda Ruckus scooters. Gordon and I were both on scooters out on course, basically like we thought, well, if we just can stay out on the course somewhere, if somebody, has an injury or something, we'll help them, and we were just kind of out on the course the whole day. I left my wife at the speedway, and I literally just told my wife, like, hey, just figure it out, like she definitely never directed a bike race. She'd certainly never done one before. And I was like, and we had timing set up, and I just figured, well, that's all we're going to do, right? We're just going to blow the whistle and let them go ride. We're going to make sure they all come back alive, and then we'll wing it. And that's what we did. If you were here for the first Buck 50, I want to apologize. First of all, we winged it. I did not know what was going on. There was so many, not mistakes made, but just like mind-blowingly like, wow, I can't believe we just did that, and it was a great experience. But I think the thing that the Buck 50 did then is that everybody that came and did that race had a really good experience, and from what I understand. And when we opened it back up in 2019, we had a lot of people come back, which was really cool. And the vibe of everybody from doing it the year before was like, hey, you got to come do this race. So we had all these other people come do it. And in 2019, we doubled that and had like 550 or something. And it was a much bigger event. Learned a lot of lessons, and it went on like, well, everybody was happy with it. And then in 2020 we had the pandemic, and that story's been told, but I mean that was devastating. That was absolutely devastating. Gordon wasn't doing the co-directing with me anymore. He's doing his own thing in Virginia, and I was doing it basically by myself in 2020. And in two ways, I had to kind of prove that I could do it on my own, and then it had blown up to 800 people, and I was a little bit like, whew, this is a lot. Nobody puts on a race for 800 people by themselves, but I do. And so I was like, I would really pour myself into it, and we don't need to revisit it in great detail, but what happened the 2 days before the event and having to cancel it on really shoestring knowledge of what was happening in the pandemic at the time was very hard. And I did make the right decision. I'm 100% confident about that. And I think a lot of people felt that, but all the money was spent. All of it is spent. I mean, the chicken was cooked for, already for the meals, and you can't cancel things and take it back on 2 days' notice. You can't do that. I paid everybody what they was agreed upon, and ultimately there's just nothing to give back as a refund. So you had 800 people who were just out the money and didn't get to do the event. We had the lockdown come almost immediately after that. I was able to send all the swag out, on our own dime, which that ain't cheap.
I was going to say, how much money did you spend on top of?
That you didn't plan on it. Yeah.
I mean, and the reality is I felt miserable. I felt horrible about it. And I was like, I don't know if I can ever do a bike race again. I don't know if I can recover from it. I don't know if it's worth it. And, I lost a lot of, goodwill, that prior to that, the race was just on a high. In 2021, we couldn't do it. Just wasn't even prudent to put on a race. And when 2022 came around, the hype surrounding it, I was like really worried about, if I don't go into this thinking that maybe it won't, it's got to be possible that it doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I had contingency plans in place. I had obviously you don't think the world's going to shut down again, so you could just reschedule it or do it at a different date or something. But I just didn't know. So it just all of that. This year, and you guys were here. I mean, I think it was an exhale moment for a lot of people. You know, we finally got to do something like we hadn't done since 2019.
Yeah.
And I had to recover greatly from the loss of whatever the right word is. People lose faith in you.
The mojo.
You don't give them their money back. Yeah. And so I had to go get new customers, get new people to come to the race. And that's the deal every year. You know, this year is no different. We're opening the registration on Thursday, and there'll be a lot of new people that will come do the event. I hope, because not everybody's going to come back every year and do it. But that's that's part of the magic of an event too, is that it is different every year. If it was the same exact thing every year, people would, you would just get bored of it. So back to your original question, what's different? An hour later, I didn't forget. The number one feedback I got from Ian Boswell this past year was that by the time the elite riders finish and we do podiums and other stuff, the bulk of the riders are gone. All the 50 riders have come and gone. The 100 riders have come and gone. And then the folks that are doing the 150 at a slower pace are still out on course. And it's just not the atmosphere at the track that it could be. And so his feedback was, hey, start the race. And I've never wanted to do separate starts because I've always been worried about fields riding through other fields. Like if you did a staggered start that was like, say, 5 minutes apart or whatever, what you'd have is the next group behind. All the fast people in that group would be tearing through all the slow people in the group before it.
Right.
And I just couldn't see that working. And it was a mess. So what I did was, I'm going to start the Buck 50 at 8:00. And let's say it has 300 riders in it. I'll wait until 9:30 and I'll start the Buck with the other 300 riders. And then at 11, I'll start the 50 with 300 riders. And because the courses are all a little different, what will end up happening is almost everybody will finish around the same 2, 3, 4 hour window.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we'll have a much bigger group at the Speedway at a similar time, finishing the race, celebrating podiums, food, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to make for a little bit more chaos out on the course, but I think that's going to be interesting too, because I think it's going to be nice for people to see other groups going in other directions more often. Because, even with the course as big as ours is and as many riders, you can be out there by yourself sometimes, or just you and a couple people heading in the same direction. And I think this is going to add an element of excitement to the course all over the place, because you're going to have people kind of coming and going all day.
I had so much fun last year with when we came back in, and then we camped that second night again. I did a lot of camping down in the Croatan last year with the long weekend, and then right into Friday and Saturday. But it was so much fun, and I see what you're saying, because people come in and they go, if there's an opportunity for them to see a lot more activity at the end of the day, it's going to increase the experience. So,
and to that end, I'm glad you brought that up. The long weekend, I made a big change to that. I think we had a good idea about the 3 days before, but that's a lot of riding. 2 75-mile days and then a 150-mile race is just a lot. Yeah. And so I talked with Ted about this, and who also did the long weekend with you, and I made a change where basically on Friday the long weekenders will leave, do a 75-mile route, end up at Flanners Beach, camp at Flanners Beach, and on race day, they're going to do their own route back to the Speedway. And the theory being that no, they won't be involved in the mass start, but they're going to finish back at the speedway around the same time as all of the other folks. And so they'll get to come across the finish line, with their bikepacking stuff. They'll be able to experience the out on course feel that the other course, that the other groups are out there riding. So they're going to experience all that. And yet they're not going to have the challenge, if you will, of switching from bikepacking to racing mode overnight.
Right.
And I think that's going to suit the folks who wanted the experience, because that's where it's at. It's at the camping and the Harris Teeter and all that stuff. That's what makes it so much fun.
That was so much fun when it was like we were on our way out and it was like, well, what do we do for dinner? And some people were like, we're going to cook some food. We're going to do this. And we're looking at like, there's Harris Teeter right around the corner. Why don't we all just go there? It was so much fun. It was just that group. I think there's 11, 12 of us, something like that.
And I hope more people sign up this year, because I really think I don't want it to be huge, but I think if there was 30, 35 people, 40 people, that it would make for a lot of fun. It'd be a much more, not a big, you don't want a big group, but it's no extra cost. And, basically you're going to get all the same experience and stuff, but you're going to have 2 days of enjoyment, and I think that's going to be kind of cool.
That's more enticing for me. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. And it is, it's beautiful to see parts of, we didn't even dive into, what Croatan is, what the National Forest is all about, but you get to see so much of it in a different way, in a different style than when you're racing. Because a lot of times when you're racing, you're head down mode and you're kind of pushing, or you're fighting wind, or you're doing this, or there's people all around you. So you miss a little bit of that natural kind of beauty. And I did not realize there was as much water in there as there is. When we went up to the Catfish Lake and back over and all these little launches, it was really cool to see that. It was neat. It's just a great route. Is the route going to be something similar to what you did last year up to Flanders?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, the big difference this time is that we don't I wasn't sure how you guys were going to enjoy it or what you would want to see. And I had to get you basically 2 routes in, then do the race course. Mm-hmm. But since it's just 2, there's definitely some challenging things that we can throw in there that we didn't do before that will make it enjoyable. Okay. And so, it'll be similar, but it's going to kind of be point A to point B and then point B to point A, but it won't be the same route in both directions.
Okay, cool. There were definitely some challenging, some places that were challenging in last year, and I think the group that you had last year was a pretty hardcore, hardy group. That was Larry and Ted and some of the other guys, I can't remember who they were, but there were some pretty hardcore folks there that were ready for that challenge and then ready to ride the race the third day. Like, whoa, it was fun. It was definitely some type 2 fun though, but it was a lot of fun, and it was, like I said, really cool to see.
And like Ted said, not everybody can get 3 days off, or whatever too. So this helps. We'll have a kind of a later start, like a 10 a.m. start on Friday. So that should solve a little bit of those dramas. And also, I just think it'd be cool to have a unique experience that is not involved with you're going to see the race and be part of it, but you're going to be doing it fully loaded, and that's going to be kind of cool. In its own way. So,
well, what's the field? What's the number for the field for race day?
I mean, the cap is 900. That's figuring on 300 a piece, So, and traditionally we've never really capped the races, but that is the way the breakdown has ended up being.
Okay.
Every year it's been a third. So I don't expect that to be any different this year. There's still, the way we do it is you can sign up for any of the events, and you can switch events, and you can change your own registration up until January 31st. So that happens a lot. And one of the reasons we changed the pricing structure and everything else to just be all the same is because we have got 150 people that will change their race come January. They'll just be like, I'm not ready, or or whatever. And so that just avoids all that. So basically, like, people can do their own switching around.
Well, I threw my hat in the ring with the early registration for the 100, but
yeah,
I'm thinking the Buck 50.
You told me yesterday at lunch the 150.
I'm thinking the Buck 50 might be in my future. So
there we go. You can figure that out on your own. Yeah.
I think that's probably gonna. But you like you see, you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know what your quote unquote off season is gonna look like, and what your trainer season is gonna look like. So you got to kind of be prepared for everything.
I like the 75-75.
Yeah,
but the only time in history of Joey is I ate more coleslaw from your caterer than I did pulled pork. Which, if that's the same guy's back, that'd be tough.
The food that we didn't talk about that. The food at the post ride was on.
No, that was the Friday night
point.
too.
Both of them, all of them. The Friday night
guy?
stuff. Yes, all of it was good. All of it was good. It was fantastic.
Whatever, like broccoli coleslaw thing. I was like, dude, I've eaten way too much of this.
Last question: where can people go to register?
So you can go to Bike Reg and search for it. It's Croatan Buck 50, or you can just go to croatanbuck50.com and our link is there. You can access and see all of the registration now, and you can register so you can see the price and the whatever else is there, the categories and whatnot.
Well,
and we open
early, register early.
Yeah.
That's the key. Get in there.
So you never know what's going to happen. I don't want to hype it up and say it's going to sell out immediately or anything, but you just never know. And also, we don't have a whole lot of corporate involvement, or any real big bike industry involvement. Our partners are all sort of friends of the brand or people that we personally know and work with. And what we're trying to do this year is really build we always want to make the rider experience like the best it can be, because races aren't cheap. I had somebody recently say like that we had priced them out of doing the race, and all they wanted to do is just come and ride. And my response was like, I understand that. I mean, economics are what they are, and people, there are different levels of bike races out there. There's definitely a lot of comparable races are more expensive than ours is, and there's a lot of races that are less expensive and give less in return. And what we try to do is to make, what I try to do is just make the price of entry a value. And so what we're trying to do is give back an incredible amount of swag that's all custom done. That is not stuff that just somebody's like, here's a koozie that we made, you can have it, things you're going to use, things that you like the socks, like gloves, like a t-shirt, like a finisher's hat. Every year it's a little different. I've got some things in store this year that I'm excited about that I'm still working on, but hopefully this will be the best year ever with that. We definitely are bringing back food and beverage after the race included. And we also have on pre-reg, you can buy meal tickets for your non-riders. So we do, because we have a lot of people that come to the race or are there at the venue, or family or friends or whatever, and the meal is really good. So it's a full catered buffet style meal, and you can purchase your tickets on there. So,
I'll be honest with you, Matt. I don't quite understand how you're able to do as much as you are doing with the price point, because I mean the swag is ridiculous. I have worn that blue t-shirt out. I've worn the socks out, and kudos for being one of the only event directors that gives out 2 water bottles. Because if I'm not going to have matching water, if I'm not going to have matching water bottles on my bike, what kind of
why not, right?
So like I said, for the price point that you've got the event set at, I actually don't know how you're able to actually pull off literally the best bike game ever, in my opinion. It's just a lot of fun. And you don't even have to like find anywhere to stay, because come and camp at the Speedway, which is its own magic.
Free.
I thought that was a blast.
It was a blast. It's a magical experience to be like in the turn camping, and
you wake up, you're right there.
You're right there. So if you look at all of the stuff that comes along with it, the camping the night before, the camping the night after,
you can hang out with the outsiders.
It's actually a cheap, yeah, and the outsiders. You got the outsiders.
Holy cow!
Come on,
they know how to party.
Yeah, I mean it really is it's about the people too. Like I always say, like you can put up tents and porta potties and, blah, 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 and a bunch of signs. But it's the people. When the people show up, that's when the vibe is there, and we have these groups of people, like the Bikenetic group, like they've been coming here since day one in mass, and they're bringing their whole squad down. And people do that. You guys do that. You bring your group and you're telling everybody that you kind of know, hey, come do this event. And what's cool about it is you don't have to be our course is not hard to the point where if you're a little out of shape or maybe you didn't have the best winter, that it's going to just kill you. We don't have elevation, and some people think that's easy, but it actually is way harder, because you never can coast and you never have a downhill. You're always pedaling. But the beauty of that is if it's your first race and you're just doing the 50, or you're going to try to go long, like Brian's saying, and maybe do the 150, and maybe you've never done 150 before. The course meets you where you're at, and that's what makes it unique. Everybody from the last person all the way to the fastest is going to basically have a smile on their face at the end, because it's hard, but it's not too hard, and it's an early season race, and the vibe is right, and that's kind of what we want it to be. We don't want it to feel like the World Championships of anything, nor should it be. And if you want to be competitive, it's there for you. If you want to just enjoy the day, it's there for you too. So that's the sweet spot.
And it's right when the time changes in the spring. So spring is popping. It's down in the southeast. You get a little warmer weather coming out from where we are, and there's just so many good things that all come together. We didn't even talk about the course, but let's save that as we get a little bit closer to event date. Will you come back and join us again, and let's talk about the course itself and what it looks like? Yeah,
let's see what Sector 4 is like in January or February.
You gonna stick around for some this or that, Matt? Please say thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Here's a tech tip for the week. If you dig on the internet, you can find videos of Matt on bike flights still.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've been using bike flights forever. He's always still on them. Yeah.
First item on this week's, Matt, I'm going to hand it over to you. Then Joey. No, then and then Joey, you're last.
Yeah.
First one: socks inside out or socks mismatched?
Ooh, mismatched.
Yeah, because it actually goes right with the whole like increased visibility thing. So I'm gonna go with mismatched as well. But one of the things that I've always lived by is you can never not find bike socks if all you ever wear are bike socks, Joey. That's the only kind of sock. Yeah,
You're preaching to the wrong person.
I went to a wedding in Connecticut and I was wearing bike socks. Go ahead.
I got married in them. Yeah. No, Jess is the queen of having 30, 40, whatever pair of these. She's always mixed matching.
Yeah.
And they just go together mixed matched.
Yeah.
It's cooler.
Yeah. I like that. Actually,
I gave her crap at first because somehow my socks disappear.
Well, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, no, mixed match is. I even got one of those sock things for. Yeah, they don't stay together.
Second one is this is a special this or that for Joey. Frankie Andreu or Joey to MC your bike event.
Oh wow, you're putting me in a bad spot.
We can all say Frankie because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Little inside joke for our friends.
Okay.
You don't have to answer this.
I know why this is an inside joke, and I'm just afraid that maybe Frankie's listening. I love Frankie.
I wish Frankie was
I love Joey. I love them equally.
Frankie did the announcing.
Yeah, it's
at
because he did
Worlds.
Gravel Worlds,
and he did a really great job. He was.
Well, let me go back and say Joey's cheaper. Okay, let me just say that.
So you get what you pay for.
Yes.
Joey, do you pick your? We have both picked. I'm picking Joey. Matt is opting
Yeah.
out. Joey, do you pick yourself or Frankie?
I doubt Frankie's going to panic and be like, "Hey, Matt, I don't think I could see who's actually coming in."
Yeah, I will say I don't want Joey to MC this year because I want him to ride. I think he would enjoy riding.
I do want to ride. I have no idea what I'm doing MCing. Even Cynthia asked me to do Grab East after that, and I messaged her before, and I had a staff emergency. I'm like, I'm a horrible person at this. Now, Frankie, I'll go. I might do the overnight with the new format. So
yeah, nice. Third item: Crocs in the winter or boots in the summer. And when I mean boots, I mean winter boots, not like muck boots, like winter boots.
I gotta say boots. I'm not a Crocs man. Y'all know this.
Well,
I mean, I wear Adidas slides and Birkenstocks, and that's all I wear. And I just can't do Crocs. Everyone else does Crocs. I got nothing against them, but I gotta go boots.
I find them very comfortable. But you do have probably the most famous feet.
Wow.
If you haven't seen Matt's OnlyFans page.
Wow.
You do have some famous feet. The Ridge Supply.
This is really going off the rails here, guys.
Well, that's pretty typical. I do actually already wear Crocs all winter long, so that's an easy one for me, Joey.
Yeah. So I mean, if you didn't say Crocs, I'm the same way. Like I sell socks for a living. I hardly ever wear socks. I pretty much just wear, because I live at the beach. I mean, I just wear slides or Birkenstocks pretty much every day. I don't care how cold it is.
That's tough. I like
So
Crocs
boots.
with socks.
Crocs with socks.
But
I do Crocs with socks.
I like those Chelsea style boots, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And I actually was anti-Croc for 32 years of my life.
Oh, I brought you round.
Until I wore my dad's pair one night. He was over for dinner recently, and it is nice standing on your feet all day in a store.
Yeah.
Same with the boots.
Although I get a new pair every year though.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with Crocs. If you haven't tried the Birkenstocks Evo Arizonas, you do not know what you're missing, and you need to try them first before you. They're the kind that they're totally waterproof, so then they don't have the regular footbed, and you can use them anywhere. You can hose them off. They're just like Crocs, except for they're lighter than Crocs. They're not as bulky. I'm telling you, game changer.
Okay,
that's just my plug right now. I'm not an affiliated. I'm not an ambassador for them yet.
Mental note made. I will
Birkenstocks,
actually look into
if you're
that.
Listening.
Yeah. I will look into that for because I get a new pair every spring for fishing. I get a different color. And they wear out. The bottoms they wear out and they get slippery, and you kind of got to chuck them.
I will say, I mean, this is actually a real tip. I told everyone the other day. I'm like 2 months, 3 months into wearing Crocs, but the occasional time I still work on bikes, if you get a bright pair of Crocs and you're setting up disc brakes, there's a little thing with trying to look through and setting up paper on the floor.
Oh,
bright Crocs work.
Just the color, because you can see you can see it's got a
it's
there
just
you go.
to see the daylight, and otherwise, yeah. What is that shoe brand you use? Quack or
Quack.
Quack? They have those Chelsea style boots with SPD pedals.
Yeah,
cleats.
Really?
Yeah.
I want a pair of those so bad.
All right, last this or that. Sector 4 at its worst, or a knockoff chamois for a 150-mile ride.
Oh, Sector 4 every day.
Sector 4 at its worst was the best.
Yeah, I love Sector 4. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. It wasn't fun at the time coming through with a loaded bike. I will tell you that.
No.
Okay?
Like Matt said, the thing I had FOMO of, I didn't get to experience any of that course last year.
Yeah.
And I only wear cutaway bibs, so I'll take Sector 4 all day.
Yeah, it was, and by the time the end of the day rolled around, it was, and when I was on Sector 4 a couple of times, because you go back through it over and over again, there was some like racers, like more of your elite racers were coming through, and I timed it so that I was coming one direction and they were coming back, and I literally just got off the side and watched them go through, and it was really cool. It was, and like you were talking about that, Matt, how you see other people, doing different things, and, and it was really cool. It was a really cool experience for me.
I think every ride has its thing. I mean, Croatan's Croatan, but I think everyone's going to remember Sector 4 from.
Oh yeah,
they won't. No one's going to. I mean, people will know Ian Boswell, but everyone's going to know Sector 4 from that
shared
year.
experience.
Yeah,
shared experience.
Everyone did it.
And what was the other road? Savage Road, wasn't it? Was it Savage Road?
That was
that was a long time ago. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Matt, for joining us, for playing along here for this or that. That was a great conversation. Really appreciate it. And I am looking forward already to my first 2023 event. Yes. I'm excited to stoke is high for the best bike game ever coming up in 2023 in the spring. And it's early, and it just kicks the season off, man. It just puts it in the right place. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and come see us at Philly Bike Expo if anybody's coming. We'll be there. We'll be there with Rodeo Labs and Paper Trail and like a huge booth.
Nice.
And we're gonna have some brand new bikes being released there and unveiled. So stay tuned for that.
I texted Matt about Philly a long time ago. He's like, I got the best damn spot in the show.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel and Dirt. If you enjoyed the podcast, maybe consider joining us on Patreon or go sign up for Croatan Buck 50. Tell Matt, hey, I heard about this thing and now I want to go do it. So that's another way you can support the podcast, by supporting our friends. We love that. Joey, how can folks get in touch with us?
Our website is graveltraveldirt.com. Our Instagram is at Mid-Atlantic GTD. If you want to actually come and touch my hand, that's all you can really touch. Shake my hand in the store. Check out some cool coastal floral kits, some socks, a shop. Nice. You can do that at my store.
Mid-Atlantic Gravel Travel and Dirt is recorded this week from right here in Joey's kitchen. Jess has gone upstairs. Thanks for riding along. Till next time, do good, be nice, go slow, respect others. Love you, bye. Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.